Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, an action-packed show. We got an impending vote on Marcellus Shale. We got Tom Gentzel from the school boards going to talk about some innovative ideas to help failing schools, and then our popular financial literacy update, all that and more after these words.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back. Well, we're going to get to it. Joining me, as often is the case, is Scott Detrow. You may remember him from WITF, from Public PA Radio. He's with StateImpact. He's the energy guy. That's a good way. All things energy. All right, Scott, let's get right to it. Impending vote in the House on Marcellus Shale. Give us the update. What should we watch for?
Interesting dynamic shift at the Capitol. All year, Senate Republicans drove the boat on Marcellus Shale. They led the charge, and you heard nothing from House Republicans at all on this issue. All of a sudden, the Senate bill hits a snag, and House Republicans come out with a measure, by and large, written with the aid of the Corbett administration. That clears a committee last week, and that is now the driving bill here in the Capitol. By and large, this measure, House Bill 1950, is the plan that Governor Corbett outlined in October. A few new changes in there, most preeminently this language that would supersede and preempt all local drilling ordinances.
That's controversial, isn't it? It is.
Yes, this is, for a long time, the drilling industry has looked for a way to put consistency across Pennsylvania. Their point is they're having to tweak their operations from township to township and having to kind of jump through all these local hoops in order to drill in these townships. The Scarnati plan, this is the Senate bill written by Senate President Pro Tem Joe Scarnati, would have allowed municipalities to do whatever they wanted, but if they had regulations over a certain limit, they wouldn't get any money. This goes several steps further and says all local ordinances related to natural gas drilling wiped clean, and this will be a statewide standard.
And that'll have to be worked out, reconciled with the Senate eventually, right?
That's right. You'll likely see an upcoming vote in the House in the coming weeks on this measure. Impact fee.
Oh, yes. I can't let you come. Impact fee. Where do we stand with that?
We're about where we were last month on this measure. It's the Corbett plan that it would not be a statewide fee. It would give counties the option of imposing a fee and setting their own rates up to $40,000 per well in the first year. That would gradually decline to $10,000 per well, and that would be split up. Roughly a third would go to counties, a third would be doled out to municipalities, and 25% would go to the state and split between a bunch of different state agencies.
Now, if that passes the House, that's likely to pass the Senate. The Senate actually some senators would go for what they call a severance, a tax on the cubic feet extracted as opposed just to each well, a tax on each well, which is the impact fee. Do I have that about right?
That's right. I'd say that there's support in both parties for some sort of broader tax, but the problem is Governor Corbett has made it clear he would veto any bill that kicks money into the general state government. So leaders are saying, look, that's not a realistic option. We're going to focus on this fee. It's going to be close, though, because they have to get this passed soon. The date for this House bill says, counties, we need to have this in place and collect it by April 1st. And if that doesn't happen by April 1st, there's no money in 2012.
All right, great update as always. All right, coming up, we have Tom Gentzel from the School Boards Association. We're going to talk about some innovative ideas, what to do about failing schools, coming up after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, bringing educational innovation and freedom to the children of Pennsylvania. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by ReconnectPA.org, supporting a comprehensive transportation funding solution, and by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Joining me is Tom Gentzel. He's the Executive Director of the PA School Boards Association. Tom Gentzel's organization is one of those organizations that I do some research for. Full disclosure on this program. We don't hide anything. Tom, welcome back.
Thanks,
all right, look, you all have come up with some different ideas for what to do about failing schools, and there is no doubt that raising achievement among those schools is a high priority. I mean, I think everybody agrees. Go through some of those things that you
I think we ought to start by saying that most public schools are doing a really good job. I mean, 94% of them made adequate yearly progress, which is a very high bar to be reaching. But we do have some schools that are struggling. And, you know, I mean, there's proposals for vouchers to help those schools, which we've rejected. And the public overwhelmingly, as we found in our polling, has rejected. But what we've said is, what can we do? And we've looked at the research. We've actually talked to administrators of schools around the country that have been successful in turning around performance. And it's some of those things that you might really suspect. It's things like attracting the best teachers into those schools. It's focused professional development. It's early childhood education programs that are clearly effective, and a lot of other investments. So what we're saying is, let's talk about the things that actually work. Right. Vouchers will only help a few kids potentially, and we know they don't really work.
Yeah, some of these recommendations, I know you have here, it says create specifically focused comprehensive school improvement teams. You know, we need to get too far into the woods. I mean, is that something that's doable and workable given the current fiscal climate?
We have some outstanding school administrators in this state, and of course many who have recently retired from public education. We know we're losing a lot of people out of public schools right now. If we can pull some of those folks together, send them into some of these schools to really work with them on effective practices to help turn things around. Those kinds of investments have paid off in other places. We should be doing that here. That's a much better use of our resources than vouchers ever would be.
You know, I often had this sort of, it may be a crazy idea. You'll tell me if it's crazy. It's okay. It won't be the first time someone told me some of my ideas are crazy. I often thought, why don't we have a big education summit and get all of the stakeholders, you know, into a big 3 or 4 day conference and say, okay, let's sit down and go through some of the things we know that work and see if we can all work together to make, you know, get the heads of parents organizations, you know, the teachers unions, I mean, you folks and superintendents organizations. Is that completely crazy?
I don't think it's crazy, but if you're being crazy, I'll be blunt. I think what we're finding is this debate often refers to the poorest kids in the lowest performing schools, but I don't think it's really about that. I think it's about a lot of other things. There's a lot of money, as you know, behind this effort to push vouchers. If we were really serious about turning around these relatively small handful of schools that are not working, we could do the kinds of things you're talking about, certainly the things we're talking about in our paper.
Yeah, one of the things that always struck me, and it's in some of the reports that you've issued over the years, has to do with sort of changing relationships with parents. I've always been impressed that, you know, kids get dropped off at school, you know, they may be, you know, need meals, they may go home to, you know, with parents missing, and I mean, and schools are always expected to do everything.
Right. I mean, that's grown and grown.
It's gotten worse, correct?
Well, I mean, look, I mean, families are struggling for a lot of reasons, economically and otherwise, and we know that a lot of these kids do not have the kinds of supports that many other children have. But that means schools have to work a little harder to engage parents and to find community support. And again, there have been some outstanding examples around the country of schools that have invested, communities that have come together to support these kinds of programs. Good after-school programs, as you know, can be very, very helpful. Those are the kinds of recommendations that we put on our paper, which is, of course, on our website.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to ask Tom about the funding, particularly early childhood. It was a big emphasis for a number of years. We'll find out if it is now and what he thinks ought to be done. All the studies show that early childhood education is very important to progressing through school and staying in school and learning. We'll be back with Tom Gentzel in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
I welcome back with Tom Gentzel. He's the head of the Pennsylvania School Boards Association. He's the executive director anyway. We're talking about all things education. Look, what we know, all the studies have shown support early childhood. It's going to pay dividends in the long run. Where do we stand in this state with early childhood education?
Well, I think we've made some remarkable strides in this regard, and this has become really a bipartisan effort, I have to say. Both Governor Rendell, Governor Corbett have been very strong supporters of early childhood education. What's really interesting to me, Terry, is the business community in this state is spending a lot of time and effort to promote funding for early childhood. They really kind of have gotten it. They understand the importance of investing early, because you can't waste those early years of a child's development.
All right. The other thing that, we've talked a lot, we've had supporters and opponents of the voucher plan on this program. We've also had, folks who support cyber charter schools. And in the school choice legislation, there's also some aspects of it that deal with charter schools and some concerns about who gets to create them, what are the regulations that apply to them. Where does that stand in the current legislation that, is moving in? We'll see how far it goes, but is before the legislature.
Well, there are actually several kind of versions floating around right now. We ought to say for your viewers, charter schools are public schools. They're just independently operated. And right now they have to be created by school boards. So that's one question. Do school boards remain the only ones that can authorize, or do you allow everybody else, a lot of other groups, to create them, universities, museums, and so forth? The big issue with charter schools, really two of them. One is funding, because those dollars come right out of local school district budgets, and our costs don't typically drop very much, even though some students may leave. The other is oversight and accountability, and I think there is some growing support to have more accountability on charter schools. We've done studies that have looked at the performance of charter schools. Some are doing a good job, a lot of them aren't, and we're spending a lot of money for an experiment that's not always working.
So your point is there needs to be accountability, and you're happy with what looks like will be in the legislation that, if it is adopted, not suggesting it will be, that will allow public schools to have the ability to create
there needs to be accountability, at least from a school board perspective. It's through an elected body.
All right, before I let you go, any update on where the school choice bill stands in the legislature right now?
Well, the Senate has approved the bill, sent it to the House. But, the House has some differing views about its priorities. We were talking about Marcellus Shale. There are a lot of other issues that are pending right now. But the governor's made it very clear he's pushing hard. There's a lot of money flowing to a lot of candidates and a lot of lobbyists running around the Capitol on behalf of sort of the pro-voucher movement. So it could move at any time, but we don't necessarily expect the House to vote on it immediately.
All right. Hey, thanks for coming. If you have an update, give us a call, and we'd love to have you come back and talk about it. All right, we'll be back. A financial literacy update after these words. Stay.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Hi, welcome back to the program for our popular financial literacy update. Joining me, as often is the case, is Mike Wishnow. He's a senior VP with the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association, and Bill Lavage. He's the CEO of Service First Federal Credit Union. These titles are too long, but I can't say anything about titles, Michael. I got the longest title in the world. All right, look. Mike, I want to start with you. The need for financial education, I mean, maybe greater than ever. We're in this recession, money is tight, and it looks like borrowing is going up a little bit. Consumers' borrowing is going up after it went down. Talk about adults and parents and the need for financial education as kids move forward in life.
Well, clearly, financial education starts at the earliest stages. We've learned that. You have to introduce financial concepts probably pre-kindergarten, and hopefully that's occurring in the home to start. We're also taking it to the schools at every level, beginning in kindergarten with wants and needs, and ending with economics at the senior level.
Hey, but I like this one percentage that you have in a survey that you did. I didn't do that survey, by the way. 53% of parents agree that their child thinks money grows on trees.
Yeah, isn't that great?
You believe that?
Yes, I do. I have two sons, Terry.
You think money grows on trees? I guess. Go ahead.
We ran into the same thing that Mike's talking about, Terry. A couple of us were sitting around years ago noticing credit card abuse was increasing. People were defaulting on their loans more frequently.
Yeah.
We were closing checking accounts, and asked the question,
Wow.
where did I learn that? Where do you learn that? I didn't learn it at home. I didn't learn it at school. So we decided to go to the school itself. We opened a branch, and included in that branch, we do sessions with the teachers, in-house education.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that sort of struck me as interesting, and Mike, I don't think you and I have chatted about this in the years that we've done this update, and that has to do with whether a student should have a budget.
Oh.
76% of parents said their high school student does not have a budget.
Right.
Should a high school kid have a budget?
Absolutely, a high school kid should have a
Now
budget.
you're telling me something.
Yeah.
I didn't have a budget.
Well,
I didn't have any money.
now they have money.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
as a
true. And
cohort,
credit cards maybe.
they may have credit cards, but as a cohort, teenagers are spending literally $2 billion a year in the U.S.
Wow.
So, yeah, a budget is a plan, and it sets your priorities. If you want that car, if you want whatever it is, and I know Bill is involved in going into schools, as he said, and he's going to be, maybe a little bit gracious, but he just won a national award, his credit union, Service First, for the work that they do. And I know you guys do some stuff with budgeting, right?
Yeah, we do, Mike. And thanks for giving me credit, but it was basically the staff at Service First. We teach budgeting at all levels. You mentioned pre-kindergarten. We start kindergarten up through senior in high school, grade 12. Interest rates on credit cards, how to maintain a good credit rating so that when you want to buy a car or a home, it's there. And it's worked very well. The teachers, the students, the administration are all very thankful that we've done
And you
that.
have, like, you're in now 190, in 7 years, you've had this program, 193 school districts, I take it, and what, there are 500?
There's 500.
So you're, what, about a third?
40%,
pushing,
right, yeah, 40%.
110,000 students, you say?
Correct.
Have gotten this
Something
this
from a
education.
credit union.
Yeah.
Credit unions are partnering more and more. Bill and Service First were pioneers in that field. More and more credit unions are going into schools. There are now 40 in-school branches across Pennsylvania, but it's
Wow.
not just the branches, it's the curriculum, it's what's taught, right?
Correct.
Now, the question I have is, are you doing this as in formal classroom settings? Are you taking them into the curriculum in school? Is it after school? How does it actually work?
To answer that, Terry, yes. It's all of those. It's,
all of the above,
we
right.
were fortunate to work with the curriculum, for instance, in life skills. We teach the credit card information. In driver's education is where we get the class and we teach them how to buy a car and what you need to know and what to watch out for when you're financing. So it is embedded in the curriculum. We also do some outside the curriculum sessions where parents and students are welcome to attend and learn about finances.
Now, to go back onto this business of, let's talk, basically here to parents and college students. It was interesting to find out that 55% of college students acquire their first credit card during their first year in college, and 83% of college students have at least one credit card. So we are talking about a very rapid move from, no credit cards perhaps, or living, maybe the parents are paying the credit card while they're in college. But this is takes on some pretty big responsibility.
Oh, absolutely, Terry. And honestly, that 55% number has gone down from prior years, in part because the legislature here in Pennsylvania passed a law that doesn't allow the credit card companies onto the college campuses at orientation and giving out free beer mugs and hats and towels and whatever. But yeah, absolutely.
Well,
80% have credit cards.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that, the opening day of school, not so much where I am now, but at Millersville when I was there, you would go out and, not at Franklin and Marshall, but they maybe just haven't noticed it, but they'll go in and they'll be, sign up for this card, sign up for that card. And the point is that before you start doing this, add what they should know, right?
Correct. Because when we first did a session on credit cards at the high school, I was there, we asked the class how many people had credit cards. Half the class went up. These were seniors in high school.
Right.
We asked, how many of you that have credit cards know what the interest rate is? One person raised his hand. So that's the need for the education.
Yeah, before you go, you all are having a reality fair. What's that about?
Yeah. We are having a reality fair November 16th at the Capitol. Public is welcome to come and observe. What it is we are getting kids from about 12 or 13 school districts, academic middle. They're going to have an experiential learning experience where they're going to get a salary, a job that they choose. They're going to get taxes taken out. They're going to get a credit score, and they're going to have to go around.
Can I get a job for $1 million? Can I get $1 million?
That's interesting because a lot of them want to be professional athletes.
Oh, I see.
Okay, or want to be doctors.
That's 10 or 12 million.
Well, not in the first year, it's not. But it really is a dose of reality.
Yeah.
And they have to go and they have to make that budget, as Bill said, and they have to make it work. They have to choose their housing and all that kind of stuff. And your experience, you know, that hands-on is really sinks in.
It is. And they don't anticipate the outside expenses, like, okay, the prom's coming up, but you spent all your money on pizza and CDs, DVDs. Uh-oh, now what do I do?
You know what's sort of fascinating? I mean, I noticed that a lot of young people don't carry cash. I mean, they, you know, not even for an emergency. They use the plastic for a 75 cent or $1.25. And who knows, as we move forward, it may be the, you know, your Droid or your iPhone. And that just makes it so much easier to keep track, but it also seems to me makes it just easier to spend. You just hold a phone up and, right?
I think you're right. I mean, I know that when I have to dig into my pocket and pull out some green money, it feels different than when I'm just handing a card.
All right, we have about a minute left. Where does we stand on these bank transfers? A lot of the credit card companies are walking back from the fees. Where does all that stand, either one of you?
I'll start, Mike, briefly. For years, credit unions have had less fees. I don't know of any credit union in our area that is now charging for the debit cards the way the banks are. So it's always been credit unions are the undiscovered financial institution.
Right.
With the highlight on those fees, though, it's becoming more predominant, and we've seen a bunch of people switch over. Mike might have some data on that.
We have about 30 seconds. They're walking back from them. I mean, it looks
Sure.
like to me.
Yeah, I mean, clearly since Bank of America came out with its $5 fee, people have been looking at credit unions nationwide. There's been 650,000 people switch leading up to bank transfer day, another 40,000 on bank transfer day.
All right, coming up on PA Newsmakers, we're going to have an all-star panel. Also, we're trying to get Governor Corbett on for a special interview over Thanksgiving weekend. Thanks for watching this edition of PA Newsmakers, and stay well.